first thing that you notice about this scene is its staging. Steve is put up on the stoop, whereas Ben is on the ground, his head tilted, his eyes averted. When we go to the reverse shot, Ben's is from a down angle, from Steve's perspective, while we look up at Steve from Ben's perspective. This establishes Steve's superiority, at least in Ben's eyes.
What's up?
The music swells and the scene fades to white to represent this transition to an altered state. We speed down the highway with Ben and Steve, though they are not physically present. This fast-paced trek flows into the next shot, where we take the baseball's point of view, racing towards Steve's waiting bat. The viewer's head is bashed 3 times over as an introduction to this new scene. The next shot is of Ben's face, distorted by the fence before him. He moves into focus from an obscured blur, dazed, almost expressionless. He is the bashed baseball, the victim of Steve's mindless practice, just as we are. Our dizzying flight towards Steve serves to put us on level with Ben.
You happy, Ben?
The music ends abruptly at Steve's question. However briefly it lasts, this moment is sobering. The viewer is allowed to settle with Ben as he takes his time to think.
I don't know. It's the most truthful thing I've ever heard.
The break ends with Steve's affirming response, his moment of humanity. He's reaching out to Ben, searching for friendship and affection. He genuinely yearns for this companionship. After Ben's smile, however, Steve immediately turns away from this moment, back to get out more aggression with his bat. He turns the focus back on himself with a statement of...
At least you have a choice.
He becomes once more the conceited, vain antagonist. When we get back to Ben, we see him struggling for understanding. The odd mixture of envy and hatred is clear in his face, in the pause before his own question.
You're not happy? I'm very happy.
But at Steve's selfish response, we once more get a blurred picture of Ben, close up on his eyes. He has failed to understand. His hatred of Steve is absolute. We see now how the distorted picture of Ben through the fence serves its purpose. He is trapped, prisoner to his emotions for Stephanie, to his proximity to Steve, and the inability to connect to him, despite trying. He can only see him through these chains.
Isn't it obvious? I have everything.
The blurred visuals continue as Steve describes how happy he truly is. We see through the same chain-link fence a fuzzy view of Steve hitting the balls. This is Ben's perspective as he looks on, listening to Steve. The image is blurred not just because of the effect of the drugs, but because of how Ben is affected by Steve's words. He does not care. Perhaps he's even indignant. The only thing in focus during these shots is the fence itself, a further emphasis of Ben's entrapment. He does not truly see Steve. He does not want to understand.
Ivy League scholarships, of course, Stephanie.
When Steve mentions Stephanie, Ben's indignation is brought into sharp focus. We get a shot of him again as he says, in his eyes we see his anger swell, a precursor perhaps to the tragic events that will follow.
Right there. That's it. So fucking happy I can't stop it.
There's a certain emptiness to Steve's words, even as he pauses to lament his own happiness. This, along with Ben's half-hearted response,
Why not?
portray Steve as hollow, worthless.
It's a never-ending cycle. When you got everything you want, what's left? You can't settle for being happy. That's a fucking trap. You gotta take life into your own hands. Do whatever it takes to break the cycle. That's what it is. Breaking the cycle.
As Steve continues his monologue, we get several flashes of his attempts to hit the ball, followed by a dizzying pan around and around Steve, over and over again. This both represents the cycle that Steve discusses in voiceover, and serves as one of the longest shots of Steve. Lynn attempts to give us some connection to him. The reason why his monologue is in voiceover is to prove to the audience that Steve's emotions are not just talk. The visual representations of these words are on the screen for us to see. If this was only a discussion between Ben and Steve, the words would seem ineffectual, a kind of boo-hoo from Steve. However, Steve is not this simple. Up to this point in the scene, we have received Ben's point of view. We have sympathized with him. But for this brief interlude, Steve is given a chance to receive our affection, or empathy. This is immediately qualified by Ben's scoff and comment. Ben has made up his mind about Steve. Nothing can change his view. Perhaps nothing can stop him from reaching the inevitable climax of the film. While at the beginning of the scene, Ben tries to understand Steve, he now only finds him ridiculous. When Steve says that he envies Ben, Ben only laughs. Of course, Steve does not fully comprehend this. At the end of the scene, he asks Ben over and over again, what? He feels as though he has just bared his soul to Ben, that he has found a friend in him. But in effect, he has alienated Ben entirely. This scene is so very important to an understanding of the relationship between Ben and Steve. While during the murder scene, the audience is perhaps shocked by Ben's almost animalistic actions, this scene provides several clues to the disconnect of the pair and what drives Ben to the act of murder.
Sometimes no matter, I'm on fire.